Hello, everybody. What does it say right now? How many in the house? Three in the house. One thumbs up. Pockets two. Told you we'd be live here shortly. Recon Fi. Good news for Americans. The British Marxist left wing party lost most of its seats in conservative, and now with the UK departure from the globalists, the EU equals Brexit passed. I sure hope so. I sure hope so. But on, we'll talk about that after a while. But that's awesome. So let a few more people get in. I don't have the top technology, all the computers. YouTube took away the Hangouts, like when I used to do the live streams with um, shoot brother Mike and Big Precious. They don't allow that anymore for some reason. I don't know. So we're gonna go old school, and right there's my brother Jeff, best friend. But I need people to let me know if you all can hear them. So if you want to do like a test one, test two.
Test 1, 2, 3. Can everybody on the internet hear me there?
You can push one if you can hear them good. For some reason, it's probably because I have these on. Take a minute for some people to come in.
No problem, JD.
Yeah, they don't know me as JD. Fair.
What do they call you as?
Huh?
What do they call you?
Well, I've been Justin for after I started my own company years ago. So no, they call me JD.
I guess it's old school, different ways, right? Because that's just all I've always known. You've always been JD.
Well, all my family members, a little low on the volume. I got it as high as I can get it. Let me try another thing here. Media is high. Are you all able to hear his like if you have a question, go ahead and introduce yourself there, Jeff.
Absolutely. So my name's Jeff Arrington. I am a lifelong friend of JD, or as some of you guys know as Justin. I've always known him as JD. So been following him online for a long time now, and just glad to be able to be here and have the opportunity to speak to you guys and let you know what's happening in Virginia. So if I need to speak up, let me know. I can certainly talk a lot louder than what I'm talking, but we'll see if we can get this working.
Yeah, it's gonna take a minute. So I took the guard off to see if maybe the speaker would work better. So I think I got to hold you here. All right, try again.
Test 1, 2, 3. Again, name's Jeff Arrington. It's good to see everybody. We'll see how the audio works there.
All right, how's that audio? Too little low volume. Hello to you. Great sound. Pocket 2 says great sound. I just found it. Your channel keeps getting deleted. Yeah, I know. It's YouTube Christian conservative at its finest, or conservative censorship at its finest. But all right, we'll start off right now on. A lot of people don't know what's going to happen January 20th. If you want to go ahead, I'll give you the floor, and you can. Well, first off, I want to let you all know that I got a tweet from Laura Trump. Um, Jeff he lives in Virginia. He's a proud patriot, proud gun owner, Second Amendment advocate, and he's been helping to fight the good fight against his this new radical far left government, so to speak, in Virginia. So if you want to go ahead and say what's on your mind real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a little bit more background. So I'm originally from Tennessee. Like anybody that may live near the border somewhere, I always looked at Virginia. And even when I moved to Virginia about, 15 years ago or so, I still kind of held my claim to Tennessee. But I'll have to say with the new efforts by some of the Democrats really pushing hard, it's maybe dig my heels in really deep, and now I will have to say I'm probably feel privileged to be here in Virginia on the front line and try to do this fight. A lot of things first happened in Virginia. A lot of our forefathers came from Virginia, and I certainly don't claim any heritage to them, but they are all of our heritage, and I'm just glad to be here to have on the fight, be on the front line, and represent gun owners, Second Amendment owners. JD mentioned the 20th, and there's actually 3 dates, JD. If you don't care, I'm going to throw out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Trying to find the best.
Yeah, no problem. So tomorrow, January 11th, Saturday morning, from 10 in the morning, we're going to be having a prayer rally in Gate City. And for all you, I know JD's channel, he's a brother in Christ as well. For all of us that are brothers in Christ, we all know that the power of prayer is a very real thing. There's a lot of people today that don't believe that. Everybody's asking me, what can I do? I tell everybody the first and foremost thing you can do is pray for the situation. I'm an absolute 100% absolute advocate and believer in the power of prayer. So we need all our prayer warriors out there, brothers and sisters everywhere, to pray about this situation. We need you to pray for our state, pray for the people, pray for our elected representatives, even if you don't agree with what they do. We need to pray for them, folks. We need to make sure that they see the daylight, right? We pray that they see their error of their ways. So tomorrow from 10 to 11 in Gate City, Virginia, we're going to be having a prayer rally in Scott County. So if you can pray during that time, sometime 12, that would be greatly appreciated. Monday, the 13th of January, the NRA rally is going to be happening in Richmond, Virginia. So what that is, some of you may or may not have heard about the lobby day I'll be talking about in a minute on the 20th. But the NRA came out, and they're going to be having another rally day on Monday, January 13th, in Richmond. It's not the same as lobby day, but it's specifically in response to a lot of these really ridiculous laws that the Democrats are putting forward, these bills they're putting forward to get voted on. So, which the great thing about this is we're going to have a Monday, back-to-back Mondays, where we're going to be, feet on the ground in Richmond, in the politicians' courts, having conversations with them. So on the 13th is the NRA, and the one Justin referred to, I don't know if anybody's going to be able to see this, but I don't know if that looks right to you guys, but there is a lobby day that the Virginian Citizens Defense League, it's the VCDL, is also going to be advocating for. Now, January 20th of every year in the Commonwealth of Virginia is lobby day. Every year that happens on the 20th. What VCDL is doing is just really piggybacking that event, and they're expecting this year's numbers to be absolute historically large numbers, bigger than they've ever had before.
Wow.
So I would love to see 1 million people marching to Richmond and go there, talk to our elected representatives. I specifically, by the way, do not call them leaders. We are the leaders, folks. The people are the leaders. They report to us. We are the bosses. So we have elected them to represent us, and we want to be there and make sure that they understand that they are there to represent us, and we want to have that conversations and let them know that the people have spoken loud and clear. We're now in the state of Virginia. If anybody's following along, we're over, I believe it's around 95% of the counties and municipalities across the Commonwealth of Virginia have elected some type of Second Amendment sanctuary status. That's huge, okay? If you look at the map of Virginia and where these sanctuary statuses are set up versus the few that have not, there's like 6 or 7 areas and municipalities, counties and municipalities, that have not. I mean, it's overwhelmingly, we're coloring it green as we see these states, these counties and municipalities that adopt a Second Amendment resolution. It's huge. And there's just absolutely no denying that despite what you're hearing from the politicians, because Northam and all of his Bloomberg purchased politicians that are in his pocket and lawyers and everybody else, they're all saying it doesn't matter. They're all saying that Virginians want, as they call it, common sense gun safety or regulation. No, they don't. I mean, it's loud and clear.
False propaganda right there. I didn't mean to cut you off, but false propaganda it's rampant in the Democratic Party. But go ahead.
No, yeah. So the false propaganda. I mean, building upon that, I mean, a little bit. Some of the things that maybe y'all are also hearing is around false things. We're really trying to cut out a lot of the rumors that are going around. I was explaining to JD earlier as we were having a preliminary call that one of the things we saw happen here in Virginia, that was a large effort that was getting a lot of people's attention on the pro-Second Amendment side to do a recall of the governor. It turns out, I kind of have a hunch that was left. There were a lot of people focusing a lot of attention and a lot of resources trying to get signatures on that. It turns out that's completely impossible. You can't do a recall of a governor. They can be impeached if they break the law, which would be arguably the case if he ends up passing some of these laws. But at the moment, there's no recall effort. So that's one of those things that, people are saying, hey, let's do a recall. Let's get it going. There's no legal way to do that, right? Mm-hmm. When we talk about the 20th, I know one of the things that JD and I also had a discussion on is being wary of the people that are going to be dressing up. Obviously, say, we all know about Antifa, Black Lives Matters, Moms Demand Actions, all these groups that no doubt have some people that really intend well, but what's fueling that is the money from behind, from the Bloombergs and others. They're going to be dressed up representing those groups. But the one thing that we've got to be really, really aware about is the fact there's also going to be some that are going to be dressed up wearing NRA hats or wearing hats or wearing pro-Second Amendment hats, right? Don't put it past the other side to come out and try to do something that will give them 30 seconds clips that will make gun owners look bad all across this nation.
Right.
Right. So be very, very vigilant about that. And guys, this doesn't just go to Virginia. One of the things I want to talk about here in a little bit, JD, I'll hush here a minute, let you talk for a second.
This is your platform, brother.
We've got to be vigilant across all of the United States right now, right? Mm-hmm. I never had a desire to come out and try to be a face for this or be an advocate or get out and talk in front of crowds. That's not that. I work for a local manufacturing company. I love to hunt and fish. I'd rather be out working with my sheep and my goats out here that probably need some hay at the moment. But this is something that I can no longer sit by. I mean, whenever I heard about some of these preposterous bills that they're putting forward, I'll be honest, very, very honest with you. The very first thing that came to my mind were my children.
Absolutely.
Thought, I'm not going to sit here one day and be on my deathbed and have my kids. I know they won't look at me and say, Dad, why didn't you try harder? I know they won't think that. They won't say that. But I'll know that.
Right.
I've been fortunate in my lifetime to know a lot of old-time veterans, old-time Americans. There was a World War II veteran that I knew. And to give you a perspective, JD, even as free as you and I feel that we are, mm-hmm. right? And I think we have a lot of freedom. I'll never forget whenever he told me that whenever he went and fought World War II, and obviously he was on the front line for over 470 days in the infantry, 2-time Purple Heart recipient. He passed away in 2016. But he was fought in the 3rd Infantry Division, all across the front, all across Africa, up into Europe. And part of the key reasons that Hitler was taken out,
wow.
and that tyranny was taken out. But his exact words to me many, probably 8-10 years ago was, Jeff, if I had realized back in the 40s what was going to be taken away from us, I would have not went and fought that war.
Really?
And I'll tell you right now, he was a tough dude.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nobody wants to talk about killing, but now he would talk about the war. A lot of veterans won't. He talked about using machine guns to take out many Germans. This was a tough guy. He was a tough dude. You wouldn't have wanted to mess with him back in the day. Right. But he said it's not that he was against Americans, but he said he would have stayed here on this front and fought the fight here because he knew the tyranny that was getting implanted in America. And that's what we're now battling. And if you don't think it's in your state, think again, because it's there now. It creeps its way into Virginia. We're already hearing about this at several different states. I wrote down some notes here.
Mm-hmm.
There are some laws in some bills that are getting proposed in Kentucky, North Carolina, Tennessee, Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia. It's happening everywhere. Now, it's starting in Virginia. Wow. And I'm telling you right now, if I have anything to say, it's going to end in Virginia. But we need everybody that can pick up a phone call, send an email, send a fax, drive down and talk to your local politicians. Not only do we need your help here in Virginia, but folks in your own state, wherever you're at, you've got to get active now. Don't wait for it to happen. Don't be in the shoes like us, sitting here trying to figure out, okay, can we recall? What can we do? How are we going to beat this if they pass it? Quell it in the beginning. Finish it off. Cut it off. Nip it in the bud, as they say.
Cut the head of the snake. Now, can you explain to them two things that we talked about when you talked about your children, the new law they want to pass, and you told me earlier while we were talking that you don't even have to live in the state to help Virginia by letters and phone calls. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so like you said, two fronts. I mean, as far as what kind of bills they're passing, you can do a search online. Most states have this. In Virginia, you can do a search for the legislative. It's an electronic legislative system where you can go and see the proposed bills. The last count I saw, they were adding like 200 or 300 a day.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably about 30 or 40 that are firearms related. The majority of which are absolutely horrible. Some Republicans that are putting some forward that are trying to promote, for instance, more education in the school systems. It's Senate Bill 129 by Senator Norman. Great bill. He's basically saying not only the way that the current Code of Virginia is written is that schools can choose to do firearms education in schools. He's specifically asking for an amendment that says schools shall teach firearms education in schools. It would require a 2-hour course for every single child. That would be wonderful. If they want to end violence, they want to reduce violence, they want to reduce hate, right? We've all seen Braveheart. You learn how to use this before you learn how to use that right there, right? You don't use your sword first, use your head. Okay, on the second front, JD, you said it. How can you help? Right now, I'm going to throw out 3 names. These are some Democrats that we've been specifically told by our local representatives. We're working with delegates. We're working with senators as well. Cree Deeds. It's Creigh Deed. Deeds. He is a Democratic representative in the state of Virginia. There's another one, Linwood Lewis. It's Lynwood. Linwood Lewis. I may have said that wrong. Lyn. I think it's Lynnwood Lewis, just like it sounds. And Mark Warner. Many of you may have heard of him, but those 3 particular ones are 3 of the critical ones we're asking everyone to focus on with phone calls, emails, fax. If you happen to be somewhere near Richmond or can get to Richmond, go knock on their door, right? Have a very polite, kind conversation. Tell them you're praying for them, you love them, but you want them to understand that while we respect their rights, and we're going to respect their rights, all we're asking is saying, guys, what do you have against us? Why do you hate me? Why do you hate me trying to live the cultural heritage that I have? These same people that are wanting to take away our firearms are the same ones that turn around and say, we treated the Indians so bad, or we treated the Japanese so bad. We did. I'm not going to disagree with them. Then I say to them, why are you turning around and doing this today? Right? They say that, that was different. Well, I look at them and I say, you realize that the people that kept, we've all read the story of during World War II, Anne Frank. We've all read the diary of Anne Frank, right? Right,
where she had to hide in the basement.
The people that were protecting Anne Frank and keeping her safe were breaking the law, and they were killed for it. The ones that killed Anne Frank, they were following the law. And so when you ask them and they say, what's going to be the law? Ask them, say, listen, the law is not always right. These are my God-given rights. The Constitution doesn't tell me what I can do. I'm sorry, JD, I'm kind of preaching here a little bit.
No, preach.
But I'm going to tell you something.
This is great.
The Constitution does not tell me what I can or cannot do. The Constitution tells our elected representatives and the governments what they cannot do to us. Okay? Correct. You can take the Constitution, burn it, rip it up, throw it away. God gave me my rights when I was conceived in the womb. From that time forward, my rights were not under question, right? The Constitution tells them what they can and cannot do, and that's what they're trying to push against so that they can try to infringe upon our God-given rights. Amen. And just ask them, why do you hate me? What do you have against me? Call, knock on their doors, be polite. We don't want to give the left the image of ignorance or of hatred. That's not going to work, guys. We very much are praying about this. So as it talks about in Corinthians, if you do something without charity, charity is love. If you don't do something with charity, then you're like the clanging of a bell or a cymbal. It's noisy. It's useless, right? We need to do this with love. We need to be strong, right? We need to be strong. It talks also about in the Bible in Ezekiel chapter 33, verse 6, I do believe it is. It talks about the watchman at the gate. And if you see a sword come, and if you don't sound the alarm, then any blood that's spilled will also be had at your hands.
Exactly.
We are the watchmen. We are the watchmen, and I ask people, what are you going to do? We've got to watch out for it. We've got to blow the whistle. We do it with charity, and we do it with love, but we do it very, very solidly. We are very strong. We've got to be united in this effort.
Amen. That was great. I mean, I'm going to keep picking your brain, and I want to go back to the children, the law that they want to pass. You said on the 13th, I believe, and basically, if someone were to break into your house, go ahead and explain that. And if you can explain the fact that some of our children are home alone at 14, 15, 16, 7 years or 17 years old after school, but the law they're trying to pass.
So that's a fantastic one. So as we build into that, perfect segue into that, some of the main bills that they're putting forward that are incredibly alarming. They're already in California. They're in New York. We see them in some other states, but they're putting forward, of course, what they're calling an assault weapons ban. As we all know, there is no such thing as an assault weapon. If I take this pen, JD, and I attack you with it, that's an assault weapon.
Right.
Okay. An assault is an action, so they're going to have a so-called assault weapons ban, which is going after the most broadly used rifle in America, which is the AR-15 type rifles, and of course a number of definitions they have around that. They're wanting to pass universal background checks. They're wanting to pass red flag laws. We'll talk about that in a moment as well. And they're also wanting to pass magazine capacity, right? Magazine capacity restrictions. Let's touch on the law that you're talking about. Another one of the laws they're wanting to pass is essentially a law that states that if a child in your household can get access to a firearm, that they can get access to the firearm and the ammunition. It doesn't have to be in the firearm. If they can essentially put those components together and use it to maybe defend their own life, you can go to federal prison as a felony, class 6 felony. So the analogy I made to JD is I said, basically what they're telling me is, let's say I have a firearm in my house for self-defense and someone comes breaking through my front door. I'm going to do everything in my power and everything in my life, and I'll gladly lay my life down to protect my family and the innocents that are around me. But what they're saying is, if I do lose that battle and I die, basically that criminal, he's won the right to go through my house and slaughter every bit of my family, because guess what? They can't be in touch with a gun. They can't have a gun, right? Exactly. Now, I'll tell you something. The way I was raised, and I know we're all raised differently, but I was raised and I was taught from a very, very young age, probably 6 or 7 years old, where the shotgun was. And I was told at a very young age, we practiced gun safety, but I was told that, listen, in the event that something ever happens that you hear me say, son, now go to the room and get the shotgun, what I want you to do is I want you to put the shotgun on the floor. You hold it up and you point it toward that door. And if anybody comes to that door other than me, you shoot them. Because that's exactly what my father did. And he knew he might die trying to defend me. Right. But he wanted me to have some ounce of defense so that whenever that criminal comes through that door, I have some chance of defending myself. Right. I realize it may not be much, but I'll tell you, folks, a bunch of tears running down your cheeks if someone's trying to slaughter you ain't going to do much.
Exactly.
Okay? Evil exists in this world. If you don't believe in evil, well, then you're not a Christian personally, but I would say you also are going to have a lot of rude awakenings throughout your life. Evil's very, very real.
Amen. Okay? Amen.
Some of the other laws, I mentioned I said the one about the red flag laws. Let's talk about that a minute. One of the things that we're also really pushing and advocating for, it's one of the things I'm very passionate about. I'm one of the youth leaders at our church. Youth have always had a special place in my heart. I'm getting a little bit older, so I don't maybe connect as well as I maybe once did, but they still have a special place in my heart. You know, Jesus says, blessed are the children, and I absolutely believe that. But we're really going to try to promote a lot of education. And when I say education, it's general education. And I'm going to come back to the flag laws here in a minute. Part of this education is not only for children, it's also for adults. We have adults that absolutely were never raised around firearms. One thing you've got to realize when you're talking to some of these folks that live in urban areas, or even if they live in a rural area, there are real people that have honest, genuine concerns and genuine fears because of what they've been taught or what they've seen on TV, right? They do really think that a gun can hurt them, right?
Right.
It seems silly to us, and I understand that. But you're going to run someone like that away if you make fun of them and if you pick at them. Listen, take them seriously, okay? Look at them and say, listen, let's have a conversation. Let's educate these people so that they understand it's just like a pen, it's just like a baseball bat, it's like anything else, right? With these red flag laws, part of the education is also taking some of the common arguments that you hear from the left and showing people and giving them the resource and the knowledge that they need, how they can combat those arguments. So red flag laws. You hear Democrats and the lefties all the time say, and by the way, not all Democrats in the phrase. I should just say anti-gunners. You hear anti-gunners say all the time, well, red flag laws they're good. They're going to get firearms out of people's hands. Don't you want that? You don't want someone that's going to commit suicide to have a firearm. We should go in there. We can take them out, and then they'll be safe. Well, that sounds great on the surface. right? But when they come to your house and they serve you with a red flag warning and they take all your firearms, they're going to get all the firearms. They're going to leave. They're going to go down and lock those up. But they're going to leave you with your knives. They're going to leave you with your medication. They're going to leave you with keys to your car. They're going to leave you with all sorts of other means that you can do to harm yourself or harm others. So when they tell you it's not about guns, it's about safety, it has nothing to do with, it's not just about safety. It's about firearms. It's about taking away your firearms, okay?
Exactly.
Their ignorance and their fear do not outweigh your rights, okay? Those are your God-given rights. I was having a conversation the other day, and she made a comment, and it may have been an honest plea. I was talking about, I said to her, I said, why do you hate me? Why do you want to take away my rights? I want you to have your rights. You have your right to choose whether or not you exercise your Second Amendment rights or not. I'm just saying, let me have that same right. And she says, well, my children are scared that they're going to get shot in school. They should have the right to be safe at school. And I said to her, I said, well, so you're telling me that if my children are fearful that you may run over them with your car, I can come take your car from you because you might hurt them.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. Things like that are some common sense arguments that you can say very, very calmly. Listen to them. Hear them out. Let them speak. Let them say their part first. And then drop a little very calm line and say, well, help me understand. I mean, if that's the case, then why is this not the case? Now, what you're going to get, I'll just tell you, you're going to get people that are going to start ridiculing you. They're going to change the subject, right? Once you've planted that seed, understand that they're going to start name calling you. They're going to jump topics. At that point in time, folks, you're safe to go ahead and cease and desist. Okay, listen, I see where this is going. Listen, thanks for letting me talk to you for a few minutes. God bless you, but I've got to get to a meeting. You've planted the seed. When you see them battling it like that, you've already done it. Let me tell you this, as a Christian. One thing, this was a great analogy that someone much wiser in Christian ways than I am once said to me. He had an epiphany. You know, as Christians, we try to live a sinful life. And what happens when we see sin come into our lives? We get offended, right? We get all hustle bustle, and it just completely throws us for a loop, right? We don't like that because that's what we're trying to be against. Now, the flesh of us certainly may enjoy that, but and the Christian part of us is trying to push that out. The epiphany is you have to realize on the flip side of that, if you're consumed with evil, what happens when truth comes in? If you're in a dark room and a candle comes in, that candle light shines all across that room.
Exposes
and the darkness that's there will try to push it out. So understand that when you're starting to get through to those people, they're going to freak out, okay? They're not going to like what they're hearing. They don't want to hear truth. Now, there are some of them that are absolutely, their desires are evil, okay? They have bad intentions and they hate you. Just be honest about it. That's evil, okay? But understand, and what we have to understand as all Second Amendment supporters, is that there are a lot of people that are on that fence, and they genuinely mean well. They genuinely are unaware of, and they're uneducated, not in a negative sense, but they just don't know right from wrong because all they see is what's been portrayed to them from the left.
Right.
Those are the ones that we've got to be able to plant those seeds of knowledge and logic and education. And folks, we've got to get more of those folks coming to our side, right? So you're not going to get them to our side by being mean to them. You're not going to get them to our side by calling them names. Try to hear them out. You're going to differentiate real quickly whether they hate you or not, okay? If they hate you, you know, it talks also about the Bible, that if you go into a town and if you see the word's not spreading, you have to dust off your knees and get up and leave. Sometimes it's right to dust off your knees and leave, okay? If you can see it's not going anywhere, guys, staying there and giving them a 30-second clip they can put on CNN is not going to help you. It's not going to help Second Amendment rights all across the nation. Get up and leave. But if you can plant that seed, show them peaceful, show them professionalism, show them that we love them. We want them to have their rights. We can work together on addressing these school shootings. We do not want mentally ill people to have these. So whenever they say that, say, well, then why are the Democrats reducing health care options that are going to allow us to, the NRA's been pushing for years to try to strengthen the existing background investigation system. They're fighting against that.
Right. They hide that
so
from...
there are options, there are things we can do. Go ahead, JD.
They hide that from mainstream media, that all the positive out of the NRA. But you touched on something, and I've made numerous videos about it when it comes to the far left ideology. If you believe that, you know, if you have a family, your brother's in Brother Jason Arrington, I was hoping you would get him on
DJ.
your channel to speak to this on this topic, as he is the best and most informed right now and very latest going on in Virginia. Absolutely. I wanted to have him on yesterday. Now, Jason and Jeff are brothers, blood brothers, but I consider myself blood brother, even though
Part of the family, JD.
Yeah, I know. Since I remember when your dad would say, "JD, come here." Your father was more of or your dad was more of a father than mine was. So he taught me a lot. But going the far left ideology, I've done videos that state basically if a bunch of people come in, kick your door down, and do a home invasion, and you have young children, but you do not like guns and you do not believe in the Second Amendment, and God forbid your children are raped and murdered, as far as I'm concerned, that responsibility lies on you, because as a parent, we are to protect our children, but you chose your ideology over the protection of your children. And as simple as, like, if you're driving down the road doing 130 miles an hour and your kids aren't seat belted in, you lose control and flip that car and your kids are ejected. God forbid they're killed. Guess what? You're going to prison for manslaughter.
That's right.
That's
well,
a strong
I mentioned
move.
Ezekiel 33:6. Now, of course, it is more in direct reference to sin creeping into your life.
Right.
But in the same way, that analogy fits. If you see evil things, as we are seeing today, we are seeing these rights being infringed upon us.
Mhm.
These, again, are our God-given rights. They're unalienable. You cannot be separated from them, okay? These are actions that we see coming in on law-abiding citizens. I have been a gun advocate, gun owner, my entire life. I mean, really,
Right.
my entire life. And to sit there and think that, a firearm that I've had for many, many years, and I've been able to legally purchase it, transfer it, shoot it, it hasn't hurt anybody. And hopefully, I don't expect it ever will need to be. I hope it's never needed to be. But just because it's been sitting there and what I've been exercising for the 36 years of my life, all of a sudden, because someone up in Richmond decides they don't like it, I could be a felon and go to jail for 10 to 15 years.
Exactly. You become a felon overnight. Hold on, I'm trying something here. Hopefully, I didn't mess it up. All right, real quick. Can you all still hear? Can you hear Brother Jeff? Just put a 1 or just say yes.
Test 1, 2, 3. This is Jeff Arrington. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah. I hit a wrong button. I was trying to. It's like a 15-second, 20-minute delay. So okay, we got some thumbs up. Okay, they can still hear you. Good deal.
Let me throw one thing out there real quick, JD.
No, you throw as much as you want, because this. Just like your brother said, and I told you yesterday, you're a wealth of knowledge when it comes to what's going on in your state, the Constitution, the Second Amendment, and like I said, when I was in a chat earlier this morning, I said something about the 20th coming up in Virginia. A lot of people had no idea what I was talking about, because a lot of people are focused on Iran and Iraq and other things right now. And this is it's right around the corner. And it's, people say, well, I don't live in Virginia. It's a domino effect. Once it happens. Bloomberg paid for Virginia governor anti-Americanism. Jeff was talking about that earlier, but go ahead.
So, a number of things that come to mind. I mean, so we are seeing immigration all across the U.S. that is skyrocketing. If you look at Richmond and the immigration numbers from 2009 to 2018, they're about approaching tenfold in difference, right? Richmond's one of the main areas that Virginia was able to switch Democrat. Now, people say all the time that, well, an illegal immigrant can't vote. Well, that's true. But if they bring one in and they work and they eventually get their citizenship, they can vote. And how do you think they're going to vote when they got their brother and their sister and their 5 wives standing on the border waiting to come across?
Democrat.
They're going to vote Democrat, okay? So immigration is happening all across. It started here with Northam a few years ago against the desires across the Commonwealth. He made several of the areas sanctuary cities for illegal immigrants.
Right.
Now, you will also hear our Attorney General, who was also purchased by Bloomberg, as well as Northam, saying well, these Second Amendment sanctuaries, they really don't mean anything. They still have to follow the law. Well, we remind them, we say, well, you're sanctuary cities for illegal immigrants. Seems to work out well for those cities. They were able to do that.
Right.
Local municipalities can pass these, okay? Now, there are certain actions and bills that they put forward that are trying to restrict that ability. And that's something we're also fighting very heavily against. One thing I want to point out to everybody out there, wherever you are, whatever state you're in general, across all the United States, your urban areas typically have a 80-ish% turnout of registered voters. So if in your county, let's say in your county or in the area that in your voting district, you've got 1,000 people, right? That's a pretty large area. That wouldn't be rural, but let's just say you've got 100,000 people. Out of that 100,000, in a common rural or urban area, you're going to have, let's say, about probably 50 to 60% that are registered, right? So you've got a 40 to 50% gap of people that can't vote because they're not registered. Okay, they could if they register.
Right.
So that's the first thing I want to point out. But usually it's about 50% that are not registered to vote. Of those people that are registered to vote, usually in an urban area, about 80 to 90% of those turn out to vote. So let's say out of that, let's say 60,000 in an urban area, 45 to 50 are going to turn out and vote. In a rural area, if you have the same numbers of registered voters, which, by the way, in rural areas, registered voters is also usually much less, but you only typically have 30 to 40% turnout. And that's exactly what's been the issue here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So I say that because if you're asking yourself, what can I do in my community? What can I do in my state right now? You can get out, you can talk to people, help get them registered to vote if they're not already registered. When the time comes to vote, talk to those people. Say, hey, listen, you want to ride down to the polls? Let's go here and vote real quick, right? A lot of people are reluctant because they think it doesn't matter. That's a whole other argument. But and if Democrats have their way with the Electoral College, it will matter less. I'll be honest with you. We need to fight everybody that's trying to push to get rid of the Electoral College. You can look at the state of Virginia and understand how an Electoral College would be beneficial at the state level because you're looking at about 4 or 5 counties that won the entire state or Commonwealth of Virginia. The entire Commonwealth was Republic except just a handful of counties. And because of that, all Bloomberg had to do was focus his money in those little tiny sections, and he was good to go. So in your communities, get out, help people get registered to vote. If you're in Virginia, register to vote if you're not already. And then once you're registered, be sure to advocate that people get out and vote. We've got to make that happen.
Absolutely. Vote them out. And, I'm going to touch back on that subject where you said everybody believes, oh, my vote doesn't count. Well, if you have 150,000 people that have that same mindset, there's 150,000 votes that never went to the polls. So yes, your vote, your one single vote is extremely important and it's valuable. I mean, our rights are being, infringed on daily, freedom of speech, even on this platform. But what's that law? I don't know if they passed it, kind of getting off topic. But if you say illegal alien in the state of New York or New York City, they can fine you $250,000. I don't know if that was passed yet, but right there, that is an attack on your First Amendment, freedom of speech.
Well, to that same point, the thing I'll add there too is you think about it whenever people talk about the Second Amendment as kind of the protector for all the rest. Very, very true. One of the, back to one of the bills we're talking about with the high capacity magazines, when people that are not firearm advocates, they're against firearms, maybe because of their ignorance. When they say, well, what do you need 30 round magazine for? That doesn't make sense. You don't need that. Well, there's 2 things I say to that. I usually respond. I say, listen, first off, you understand that Rosa Parks, she didn't need to sit in the front of that bus. She had no need to. Need is not a prerequisite to a right and exercising that right. Secondly, I say to them, okay, so if we go down your road and we say that makes sense, let's have this conversation about we should limit magazine capacity. Does that mean we should limit every single speech and every single journalist paper to 1 page and only maybe 350 words? And once it's 350 words, sorry, you need to cut it out right there. That's long enough. And
Right.
of course that makes no sense. Another one of those common arguments that you can use to really derail the arguments and that they try to twist into people's minds.
Right. Absolutely. And I don't know if I read this chat wrong, but I'll go on topic or off topic. It says, ask slaves how many guns they have. I don't know if it was something directed towards somebody else, but going back to, I didn't even want to bring up the race card, but me myself, I'm Cherokee, Algonquin, and Sioux Indian, 1/4 Welsh Irish. Um, Everybody should know in history what the Europeans, the founding fathers in the beginning did to the Native American Indians and what they did to the Irish. The Irish had to work alongside, they're called indentured servants. They had to work alongside of the slaves. Now, all my ancestors pretty much were, when it comes to Native Americans, what they lost from the government, and the Irish side being indentured servants for up to 10 years. But I don't sit there and say, I'm mad at you, and I'm mad at you, and I'm mad at you, because that happened so long ago. We cannot fix, we shouldn't be held accountable what our forefathers did. You know what I mean? And when I say forefathers, I don't mean, in the government. I'm talking
Well,
about.
let me add this to you, Jenny, to that point. It's a good segue to make a point.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that the Clintons, the Bilderbergs, a lot of these global powerhouses of money are doing is they're trying to separate the people. And the way that they do that, I'm just going to throw out a couple of hot topics. So I know this may be some hot topics for people, but let's say if our focus, which my focus right now is on the Second Amendment, right?
Right.
There's a whole slew of other things that I'm passionate about. Abortion. I believe that once you're conceived in the womb, folks, that's it. I mean, that you're a living being and you have your rights. I said it earlier.
Amen. I'll cut you off real quick. I got video of my daughter's ultrasound and stuff, and watching, because now the technology is so much better, watching him stretch and move his arms and yawn. And she's got, 4.5 more months to go. That baby is alive. That's my grandson, but go ahead. Yeah.
Well, and what I was going to say is one of the things that we all have to understand when it comes to these things. You mentioned, racial division, and the racial divide. That, of course, Obama did a great job of, re-sowing into people. But let me refer to one of our founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson. One of the things that a lot of people did not like about, and they still don't like about Thomas Jefferson, is the fact that he did not free the slaves. Okay, now he wrote in the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal. If you've done any sort of reading on Thomas Jefferson, he was a believer in that. Yes, he did have slaves, but another modern fact is that people forget the fact that he treated his slaves as family. In fact, that there's a arguable case that he even had a lawyer that was one of his slaves, treated her like family.
Yeah.
So the point of it is owning another human is absolutely terrible. I'm not disputing that. But what Jefferson said when it came to slavery was, he said that was a cause that the next generation would have to handle. Why he did that is more important. People think that, he wanted to keep his slaves, or he wanted to, benefit from that. That was not the reason. He knew that slavery was such a dividing factor that if he tried in that argument, we would have never became a country. We would have never became America, because it was so dividing. It would have divided the people, and we would have not been able to stand united. And what I tell people now with the Second Amendment is there are other topics that we can find to divide ourselves. JD, you and I can sit here and talk. We're going to find something we disagree on, right? Yeah. Any two people can find something we're going to disagree on. You've got to understand that, to put your differences aside. Look at the common things that unite you and those common interests, and that's where you can make progress. That's where you can push real change. That's where you can progress for America. If we want to sit here and argue, guys, anybody can get together and just argue for years. Nothing good's going to come of that. Put your differences aside. When you join arm in arm with somebody, they may be a Democrat. And I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm a Republican. I spoke with the Republican ticket last night. But I'm telling you, there are conservative Democrats out there that we might differentiate ourselves on taxes, or we might differentiate on how we view local authorities should be able to exercise their authority. but don't let those common differences separate you. Right now, we all need to be joined arm in arm, focusing on the Second Amendment and making sure that these rights, which I do believe protect all the other rights, is not taken away. It's not going to be taken away, but we want to make sure that the government understands that they cannot do what their will upon us to try to infringe upon our God-given rights.
Exactly, and that's what I talk about. You talk about division. There are so many African Americans that vote Democrat, but they don't know the true history of Democrats. And I've made videos before, and I'll state these facts again. When it comes to the Civil War, which there was more to the Civil War than just slavery, had a lot to do with the Union and stuff like that. But the Democratic Party wanted to keep slavery. The Blue Dog Democrats are the ones that created the KKK. And who was the big that fought against desegregation? They did not want black children and whites to go to school together. The Democratic Party, they fought and fought and fought against us. And if you ask somebody that's uneducated, white, black, Hispanic, whatever, the younger generation, if you ask them simple questions like that, like who wanted to fight against desegregation, they'd be like, Republicans. No, the Democratic Party. It used to be not as bad back in the day, but now it's far left socialism, communism. But it's all, we're living in very prophetic days. Said, if common ground, if they're taught properly. I'm gonna jump.
That's right. Well, and I think that's important too. Is that we have to understand that people have been, their minds have been brainwashed.
Absolutely.
For decades, right?
Not to cut you off.
Again, that goes back to that whole point about saying that people need to understand that there are people that mean well, that are diehard, they're Democrats because that's what they think is right. But we are seeing it, by the way, with the walk away efforts that are happening, right? We're even here jokingly saying run away. There are people that are seeing, if you go back at the point of history, what politicians have always done when they wanted to progress. It happened during the Civil War. It happened during the Revolution by the King. People try to plant those vision. And that's exactly what the Democratic Party is promoting. Look at Trump's speech on the attacks from Iran the other day.
Right.
That was one of the best things Trump do in really all of his speech. I think that was probably the best one he's had. He talked about unity. He talked about peace. He talked about let's bring people together. Everything that he said was about coming to the table and having a conversation. Let's progress forward for world peace, world unity.
Absolutely.
The Democrats, they don't want that.
No.
They're going to do everything they can to. I saw someone making fun of him because he was having a hard time reading the teleprompter. Listen, that's what they're picking at, as opposed to going, okay, he didn't read the teleprompter great.
The man was tired. He's been up trying to figure out how to, to protect the American people. He was extremely tired. But, you're not to cut you off, but, he spoke about, unity around the world. That's exactly what the far left doesn't want. And these global elitists, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, big bankers, these, let me look at Bernie Sanders. Here's another thing too. I say all these Bernie Sanders fans, these college kids, they want to, Bernie Sanders is going to give us free college. In a socialist country, why would you want free college? You can't be an entrepreneur. You can't start your own business in a socialist country that's on the verge of communist country unless you're a higher up, or you know what I mean? But
and that's something else I think, it's important to note, because we're sitting here talking about Democrats. At one time there was no Democrats. There were the Whigs and the Federalists. Right? We've heard those terms, right? Go back and study your American history. Those parties eventually became the Democrat and Republican parties. I really, truly believe we are on the verge of seeing the end of the Democrat Party, and not because they're going to get voted out, but because they are following the will of the extremists that have embedded themselves in that party, and they are the new socialist party. They are fascists that are embedded in there, right? You can go back to Germany. People all the time, they say, well, that'll never happen again.
Yeah, right. It's happening right now.
That are here, countries aren't going to invade other countries. Not in modern day. I tell him, I said, don't you realize the Germans of the 1930s probably said that? Don't you realize the Russians before Stalin, they were just living their life. They were trying to go about their day-to-day living and work their jobs and everything else. Same with Pol Pot. Like all these dictators all across the globe, people didn't see it coming, because if they did, I do believe the normal person would have stood up and stopped it. What happened is it creeped in, and because of the busy lives of our nature, and we're all just trying to live this world and do the best that we can, we're distracted from that. And then boom, overnight, just like what's happening here in Virginia, they flip a switch and they try to take control.
Exactly.
And so the Democratic Party is not the Democratic Party that we knew of the 80s and 90s and even back further. That party is gone. And I tell a lot of these people that are diehard Democrats, listen, bad for voting against Democrats, because you're not. You're voting against a regime that's trying to come in, a socialist party that's trying to come in.
Exactly. A lot of people, same with I tell people Nazi Germany didn't happen overnight. It was through propaganda. I mean, it took a while. But a lot of these globalists. I believe it was 1938.
If you look at the cover of Time magazine, the man of the year in 1938.
Yeah, it was Adolf Hitler.
That's right.
Yep. It was just crazy. And that just goes to show, the propaganda pumped into the children when that generation grows up, like we have right now. What do we have? We have a bunch of Antifas. But look at Venezuela. 16, 17 years ago, they were the richest country in South America. Socialism. They're starving. They're eating their own animals if there's any left. Socialism doesn't work. But
I tell people all the time when people talk about living in, that they say that we're a socialist society because we have welfare. They call us our democracy. I tell people we are a republic based on democratic principles, and we happen to have some social policies and social programs.
Right.
We are not a socialist country. We are not a democracy. We are a republic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you see big senators, you see people that hold big chairs in office say that we're a democracy, and it's like, no, we're a constitutional republic. You can't even get that right. That's just like planting seeds in the far left, their ideology. You can plant positive. Go ahead.
One of the things that we need to do, and this, I'll bring it back to the Second Amendment, but just like you're exactly right, they get up there and they say those words enough. There are many different dictators throughout history that have said, if you say it enough, people will believe it. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly, I do believe, probably some are intentional, some are unintentional, but when they say things like we're a democracy, that's what they're doing, is they're trying to drive toward that. Some again on purpose, some again on accident.
Right.
But in the same way with the Second Amendment, one of the things I'm also going to encourage, since I know there's a lot of gun advocates on your channel, JD, if I can take this opportunity to plant the seed to all of you all. Growing up, I know it's easy for us to say, hey, check out this cool weapon I got, this new rifle, right? It's a weapon, right? We use that term. Even sometimes gun advocates use those terms just because it's kind of been grown into us, right? Mm-hmm. But understand what that means to someone that maybe has never been around a firearm and that truly is scared. A weapon has a bad connotation. So again, the Democrats have been very successful about planting these words into society that we use, that we as gun advocates, we don't think much about it, but it has real meaning to the other side. So what I would encourage everyone to do is don't use that term of a weapon. Certainly don't say an assault rifle, right? Say firearm. I've got a firearm. I got a new gun, right? Mm-hmm. We need to defuse what they've planted. We need to defuse these words that have become commonplace and that now is really kind of working against us. So I would also advocate to all the gun owners, don't refer to us as democracy. Listen, we're a constitutional republic. You nailed it, right? Mm-hmm. I don't have any weapons. I've got some firearms. I mean, I've got some hammers. You want to see my hammers? I mean, I've got some nails. Those can hurt you,
Here's one right here. This is an assault weapon right here. It's a candle with glass around it.
That's exactly right.
And like you pointed out there earlier. But I was going to say something and I just lost track of it, but go ahead. What you're saying with no, I'm serious. It was keep going. I didn't mean to cut you off, but
I do have a few things I want to point out here. So just back to Virginia real quickly with what's happening. What do we expect? Because I would imagine some of you are going to say, what do we expect? What are we doing? We do expect, because they have full control of the House, the Senate, and of course the governorship, we do expect some of these to pass. So I want to let everyone out there that knows that if you don't get disheartened, okay? And we're telling all of our folks here in Virginia, listen, if it passes, don't jump, forgive the term, but don't jump the gun. There are some militia groups, some very, very strong militia groups in the state of Commonwealth of Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
We're telling them, listen, we don't need that attention right now. We don't need that kind of public image. If these pass, we've got to fight them with every single legislative effort we have. We've got to exhaust those. If you read the Declaration of Independence, and I'm going to segue just for a moment, you have the preamble, which is essentially an explanation of all the things that they have tried to do up until that point of time. They talk about we the people and all the things that we have rights, and then they say we've petitioned kings, we've petitioned the magistrates. They go through a list. It's the longest section of the Declaration of Independence, and they basically justify why they now have no other choice but to do what they're doing. And so just like that, we're telling everyone, listen, if these pass, we have to exhaust our options, right? We don't want to justify what they do if they pass some of these by turning right around and doing something crazy. Right. So if they pass, don't worry, don't fret. We've got the NRA backing us. I do believe Donald Trump will back us. He gave in. A lot of people for the bump stock. I can get that, why people criticize him for him. I think he was trying to compromise. Right. And that just goes to show you the problem that you do. If you compromise with these people, they come back for more. He tried giving up something that was relatively meaningless, right? Whether you like bump stock, I think I was upset with him doing it too. But in hindsight, I think he was trying to compromise. And now we see what they're doing. They're coming back. So if we lose the battle, the war is not over. We've got to come back. It's a long haul change, and we're doing that through introducing measures. One of the things that I'm really pushing for, I mentioned earlier, was education and safety. JD, you mentioned, when you get off the bus, situational awareness. We want all of our youth in our communities to understand situational awareness. Be aware of their surroundings. Know about the evils. Guys, social media. How many of your kids, I really pray that if you have any young children, they're not on things like Snapchat and some of these other apps, which are just overrun with sexual predators, right?
Pedophiles.
Sex trafficking, human trafficking is huge, right? We want to send some educational pamphlets out to parents so that they're aware, because in some cases they have no clue and they're not monitoring that. So we've got general safety. We're going to try to introduce, along with this bill that Senator Norman's putting forward, some firearm safety training in the schools, as I mentioned earlier. I'm reiterating this because this is, again, our big push. And lastly is just that general awareness and drug education. Drugs in the Commonwealth of Virginia have really skyrocketed. And everybody criticizes the rural areas because that's where the drugs are, and they make it sound like it's the rural people doing that. No, they come out to the rural area because we have a lot of wilderness where they can get away with it, right? We're just as against that, or probably more so than most of you folks. Exactly. I've talked to farmers that have found a meth bottle plant on the edge of their road, and they had to call the bomb squad to come defuse the thing.
Yeah.
So, but those three fronts, we've got to work with our youth, guys. We've got to combat this decades-old effort that the Democrats have pushed forward with dumbing down our youth, and that's really what they've done. They've not called it re-education. I don't want to call what I'm doing a re-education because I'm just wanting to educate people. It's not re-educate; it's educate.
It's just like
like
Common Core. That was created by the Obama administration, dumbing down kids, making it nearly impossible. Common Core is garbage, but I wanted to touch on the topic when you're saying dumbing down. A lot of the younger youth think the Second Amendment was the right to bear arms, to hunt and stuff like that. And it's like, wait, no. When our founding fathers made the Second Amendment, you had to hunt for your food anyways. There wasn't Walmart. There wasn't Target and all these grocery stores around, You had to hunt regardless. It was to, fight against tyranny, abroad and on our own soil, what we're going through right now. And it's like,
that's
can't get
we say all the time, we're not worried about being overrun by a bunch of deer. We're
right.
About being overrun by a bunch of politics.
Yeah, there you go. I like that. End it on that note. I like that. We're not worried about getting run over by a bunch of deer, but politicians that, communist politicians, the Bernie Sanders, I can go on and on and on, but I hope if you all watch this in the replay, you learned a lot. I just did myself. And Jeff, I love you, brother. And thank you so much for doing this. And for upcoming trolls, this is the technology I have, but guess what? I don't care, because the solid message, the truth, has been put out, placed in your ear planted a seed, so to speak. So very, very knowledgeable, Jeff. Jason says, Wanda, it's my brother. Okay, yeah, Jeff. Jason Arrington and Jeff Arrington are brothers. Who is the guest? He's I like that. Who is the guest? He's very intelligent. Would love to reach out to him. I don't want to put any personal information on there, but are you willing to come back on? A few more times there, Jeff?
Yeah, I'd love the opportunity. If you guys have some questions, and JD, we'll talk about maybe some ways. I don't want to get my public information out there for trolls, but if there are some registered folks that are with you that we know we can trust, I'd certainly be willing to try to give my information to them so that they can reach out to me through different ways. If you're on Facebook, let me give a plug to our group. There's a group called, it's the Scott County, just like it sounds, Scott County VA Gun Owners, VA for Virginia. So Scott County VA Gun Owners. If you look that up and you join that, we are welcoming people out of state. We do ask that you answer the questions. That's one of the ways we're trying to keep the trolls out. So join that group. There's a lot of information there. You'll see me in there. You can message me through there. So that's out there. That's okay. I don't care if people reach out to me. Scott County, Virginia Gun Owners. JD, love you too. God bless everybody. Thank you all for listening. And I'll stand back and let JD shut it down here. But thank you all for today. I'll definitely be back if I can have a chance.
Oh, definitely. Definitely come back. Especially after I have my surgery, I'll be moping around. But no,
we'll be praying for you guys. You all be praying for us too. By the way, I want to reiterate that. I forget that, but we need the prayers. Thank you.
Virginia definitely needs strong prayers. So, anyways, love you, brother. I'm gonna go ahead and hop off this stream. And if y'all have any questions, leave them in the comment section. And plug your Facebook one more time.
It is Scott County
Gun Owners. VA Gun Owners. You can look that up on Facebook, answer a few questions, join, even if you're not in Virginia, if you want to help support.
Absolutely.
And message Jeff. And like I said, once this is over and some people watch archives, if you all have questions, next time I come on with you, we'll read off some of the questions for you. How's that sound?
Absolutely.
All right. Love you, brother.
Love you too, Jay. Thank you all.
Yep. Later. All right. I tell you what, he's extremely smart, and his brother Jason Arrington, just as smart. I mean, that was a great live stream. I hope and pray that it comes out to where people were able to hear him correctly. And if you all have any questions, if I go live tomorrow or whatever, wait till this uploads after I go off and put some questions in the comment section, because like he said, and I agree with, once it happens to one state, it's going to be a domino effect. So if you want to protect your Second Amendment and help our fellow Americans and patriots, find that Facebook account and answer some questions and help fight the good fight. So thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Justin, and the mods and chat. I'm so sorry I didn't have time to read anybody's chats. Got my Maria's in the house. God bless you. Sassy Fast in the house. Wanda E9. I saw Sister Lisa in there a while back, and Democratic Party doesn't care about us black people, and I would definitely have to agree. Sister Lisa, I call her, is a Iraq veteran with two wonderful sons that have autism, and she's wide awake to the fact that the Democratic Party definitely suppresses the minority. They promise them so many things, brainwash them, and the proof is in the pudding. Look at Nancy Pelosi's district. Look at Chicago. Look at all these Democratic-led cities and states. It's terrible. They want free, but they'll never. Different topic, different time. Anyways, prayers to Virginia. If you support the Second Amendment, at least if you go to bed tonight, just say a prayer for the people of Virginia, because this is huge. And God bless all of y'all. Thank you for tuning in. I miss doing the live streams, and I'm sure there's a lot of buffering because this computer is garbage. So fear no man, never fear death. Get right with God, fight the good fight, and always stay locked and loaded. You all did great. Moderators did great. I didn't see any trolls, so you all knocked them out. I'm going to actually hand out a couple wrenches real quick because I can only do it by phone. So bear with me. But yeah, great topic, and extremely. I mean, I saw a lot of comments in there about how intelligent. Whoa, turn that down. How intelligent Jeff. I mean, that's somebody I grew up with. Same with Jason. And his father, their father, J.D. Arrington, like I said, was more of a father to me than my own father. But he had the same knowledge, the same intellect. He was so intelligent when it came to okay. Hold on, I'm gonna hand out some wrenches here real quick. Don't get your feelings hurt if you don't get one right away. But I was catching the chat, and I saw some people that definitely had some great comments and deserved, which me personally, I don't worry about the trolls. But if there's some nasty, disgusting stuff on there, please go ahead and take them out. All right, one more. I know they're out of the house. Okay, I got them. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you for participating. Once again, I'll have Brother Jeff back on. And sorry I have to do it with the phone. They don't have the Hangouts option anymore on YouTube, just more conservative Christian censorship. And I don't have the big bucks to get all that fancy schmancy stuff, nor do I really care. It's all about the message, not about the technology. Much love. Fear no man, never fear death. Get right with God, fight the good fight, and always stay locked and loaded. God bless. Thank you. It's going to take a minute for it to shut down.